Hello, my name is Paul Grant. I'm the National Sales Manager at Australian First Mortgage. I've been with AFM for just over 5 years now. Based in Perth, WA, and still actively a business manager in that market, looking after the WA brokers. I've been in finance for over 25 years, of which the last 16 has been spent in the non-bank lending space. I get asked that question often as to why should brokers deal with Australian First Mortgage. But we have some key points I'd like to discuss. Service is the first one. Look, everybody says service. The difference I'd like to talk about regarding the service or the experience you'll receive at Australian First Mortgage is, one, a credit department. Okay, we have a very good credit team both in Adelaide and Sydney. We have very experienced credit managers with strong lending backgrounds, and most of them have worked in major banks in the past as well. The key point of difference I'd like to talk about is they have a definite can-do attitude. We're looking at approving loans. We're not looking for reasons to not do loans. They want to approve loans, and they are very happy to communicate to brokers as to why they can do something, why they can't, or what they need to help them to make the right decision to obviously assist the brokers in gaining approval and working with their clients. Service also from our business development managers. Obviously, as an active BDM on the road, it's very important that they answer the telephones quickly, electronically by email, and obviously visiting brokers. If we're not visiting our brokers, talking about what we have to offer, understanding the broker's needs as to how their business works, and it's very difficult for brokers to understand what we do. We have multiple funding lines, which can be confusing for a broker to understand. So if our business development managers are contactable by phone, electronically, and out visiting their brokers, explaining what we do and how it can assist their clients, that is part of the service proposition as well. I did discuss very quickly multiple funding lines. We have 5. Some of our niches, which is important for a broker to understand a niche. If they understand the niches, it's been a lot easier for them to deal with Australian First Mortgage. High LVR, we do a lot of business in the high LVR. We use both mortgage insurers we have access to. We have other funding lines that have no mortgage insurance, and we go to 95%. Okay? We've also the ability to not have to deal with credit scoring, which is the bane of a broker's life. Low docs, we do low docs. We do lots of low docs, and low docs are a very safe option for the right sort of client that needs to do a low doc loan. The banks put restrictions, and our funding lines put restrictions on us as to what is a low doc loan, and there's certain things that a broker and a customer need to produce to qualify for a low doc loan. So as long as the due diligence is done, there's no reason why a borrower can't borrow money into a low doc space. Commercial, we do commercial as well. We are one of the only players in the non-bank field that do offer commercial loans, and it is really good for brokers who don't specialise in commercial lending, who from time to time get a client that needs a commercial loan, and the broker thinks, now what am I going to do with this? Do I give it to someone else, or can I look after it myself? We have some very experienced commercial managers who can help that broker through the transaction, settle the loan, and satisfy the customer's requirements. We also, a misconception is that we don't do good quality prime business residential under 80%. Major banks get all that. It's not true. We have some funding lines that offer very attractive interest rates, both variable and fixed, and who price these products deliberately to chase that sub 80% market, which, as you guys as brokers would know, we all want to get a piece of that. Okay, so high LVR, low doc, commercial, and top quality clients chasing good interest rates with plenty of deposit. That's the product range that we have to offer. Is there for the brokers to be able to use. Okay. I have 2 deals that I'd like to talk to you about, which we set at AFM, where brokers probably wouldn't have thought as a transaction that they would send to Australian First Mortgage, that they'd probably go to a major bank on. I'm going to run through these 2 deals for you, a bit of the scenario and as to how we did it and what we did, so hopefully that gives you some idea as to the type of business that you can send to Australian First Mortgage. I had one transaction come through a few months ago in WA, and it was for $1.5 million, okay, and it was an 80% lend, okay, and it's a sort of deal that a broker probably thought he should go to a major bank on, but I managed to convince him to give us a try. Now, the mechanics of the transaction are very complicated, And it's because we don't credit score is why we were able to assist this client quickly and get him an approval and obviously settle his loan. So the deal was $1.5 million. Okay, it was over 2 properties. And now the interesting part of the transaction was the client. The borrower was a high net worth client. He actually had directorship to 17 companies. So as you can imagine, that the bank was asking for 17 sets of financials for 2 years, and trust deeds, all sorts of paperwork was involved. It was a deal that cannot be credit scored, and it was extremely large. Okay, so we got that transaction in. Within 4 days, it was sent to the funder for an approval. Okay, and a couple of questions came back, which promptly the credit manager went straight to the broker and asked, and obviously the information came back in quickly. So within another 3 to 4 days after the conditions were met, the funder had approved that loan. Okay? It was approved very quickly. Now, as usual, the issue is after going through 17 sets of financials and trust deeds, okay, the security documents went out by our solicitors within 2 days. Okay, signed, returned quickly because we had a 4-week turnaround time. So the broker was fully aware that was a big ask for us to do that in 4 weeks. So he did everything he possibly could to obviously assist with the transaction going through smoothly. So you've got a large, complicated deal with huge sets of financials to be read, approved within a week, and then settled in a 4-week turnaround time. So that's just one that we looked at recently in WA office. Another one that we did, and it's still going through, but it has been approved, is a $7 million loan. Okay, we'd all love to get $7 million loans. This one has been done over 2 security properties, one worth 11 million, one worth 7 million, and the borrowings are 7 million to obviously purchase the $7 million property. Again, high net worth client, very mature in age, running some self-managed super fund, income, some private income, and some income from the company that obviously he owns. Now, we were competing against another bank for that deal, a major bank. That other bank approved the loan, approved it under a very short term because of the size of the loan. The client wanted 25 years. This bank gave them 2 years because the client's intention was to sell one of those properties and basically move to the smaller house. The client didn't want to necessarily have restrictions of a 2-year loan term. He was contemplating renting out the larger property, doing some more development on it. He wasn't 100% sure, so and again, trying to sell an $11 million house is not an easy thing to do, so he didn't want the restrictions that were being imposed. We got that transaction knowing the other bank had already approved it. We were able to get that one approved. It took 4 weeks to get approval, so you're certainly not going to get a 48-hour turnaround time on a $7 million deal. Okay, but a low LVR of around 30%, that transaction was approved by one of our funders in 4 weeks. Did have to go to the bank for approval. It couldn't be done under delegated authority. But because of the seniority of our credit managers in our Adelaide office, they were able to run with that deal, meet all the conditions that were required by the bank, talk to the broker through the client as to what we can and can't do. We were able to give them a 4.75% interest rate over a 25-year loan term. To give the client the flexibility to decide which house he wanted to keep, which one he wanted to sell, and when he wanted to sell it. Okay, he had the ability to afford the repayments on the loan. So that's another example of a large transaction, not necessarily as a low doc, not in the high LVR space, good quality prime customer that AFM were able to assist the broker.